Ready to roll?
I'm ready.
What is up, everybody? This is Joe Adams, and welcome to the Relentless Pursuit Podcast. What we do on this podcast is bring in guests from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life, to share their journey and everything along the way that led them to where they're at today. We're here to connect people. We're here to make an impact, and that is what we do. So if that is for you, like, subscribe, all those amazing things. And if that is not for you, I don't know what your problem is, but it's time to jump on board. Thank you. But without further ado, I would love to introduce longtime friend and today's guest, Austina Mellberg.
Hey. Thanks for having me.
About time.
I know.
We've talked about it for a while.
Big bro Joe, I'm here.
Hey, you know, we're doing what we can.
Yeah.
Things work out how they're supposed to.
Exactly.
I just take time with stuff. Like, I feel like some people are like, man, I want to be on there, and they think I'm like, screw them, but it just like has it happen on its timeline.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
Oh no, I was more excited about who can I get? Who can I do this? And then you asked me and I was like, I wasn't on my own list.
I know, right? And now like I want to reach out to them, but I have no Instagram account.
Oh, well, we're working on it.
Oh yeah, we'll figure that out. We got this shit. I will be back one day. I'm going to fight the system.
Yep.
It's about what's right.
Absolutely.
And that is wrong.
100%. Nothing burns me more inside than all of a sudden, Joe's account's gone again. Where did he go?
I think that's probably the worst thing in the world, bigger than anybody's problems, is the fact that I can't be on Instagram.
That's like actually world ending.
Yeah. This is a big deal.
It's absolutely.
It's got to be corrected. Help us. Anyways, and if you're from Instagram,
we should make a fight for Joe.
Fight for Joe?
Fight for Joe page.
Free Joe. Yeah. Everybody think I'm a prisoner. I'll shave my head again. They'll probably think
Then,
that.
yeah. You will literally fit the picture.
Yep.
Everybody will put in their head.
Oh, he is. But anyways, Austina and I go way back into time.
We do.
How many years? How long have I known you?
You were still at GW then.
Oh, yeah. Good old days.
Those days.
Yeah, that was like 2017, 18. I don't know. It was probably after Asia. So like 2017. We've known each other since then.
Yep.
So it's been about 8 years.
Yeah. Damn. Long time.
Yeah.
And then you got connected with my sister. She was part of the OG sponsored athlete crew.
Yeah.
And then now you know my dad.
Yep.
Just all sorts of connected.
Had your pops on here?
Yep.
Yeah. It's been cool.
And I met your wife and was friends with her before you two got together. So that was fun.
Yeah. I mean, who knows what was said?
Oh.
Just kidding.
Nothing bad, I promise. Lydia, I will not out you.
Hey, you know, I probably know. She was all in it. No, but yeah, no, it's been really cool. I mean, we've gotten to witness each other's journeys, you know, and kind of just like work. I don't know. It's weird because like I've known you for so long, but then I got to know your dad really in depth within just a couple of hours.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, damn, I don't even know like your girls to this degree.
Oh, yeah.
So now it's time.
That's an open book. So he'll lay it all out there and you'll be like,
good.
Okay, did I grow up with you or did I grow up with your daughters?
Yeah,
much.
right.
I'm confused.
It's like, it's wild how people do that though. I mean, he is very much an open book, but that's what I ask for.
Oh, yeah.
Be willing to do it. So I hope you're ready to be an open book.
Like father, like daughter. Here I am.
Hell yeah, Austina. Well, I'm so glad you're here. It's an honor to have you. I'm grateful for your friendship. I'm going to start it off with that.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. But to get going, what is it that you do now? Just briefly, just tell us about your everyday life, and then we're going to take it back.
Okay. Right now, I own a small business called Sweet Equity, and I focus on commercial and residential painting. We do literally anything from the interior to the exterior. So that is my main focus right now, is getting that growing. I have a crew now. I started out after COVID. This is how my business started, and it was just me working on stuff. I hear it.
Someone else's phone out there. Turn your fucking ringer down.
You're interrupting. But I started it after COVID, just kind of doing things by myself. Then I merged a little bit, kind of sort of, with Tyler Gentry, which has been a previous guest on here as well, and he paints. And then I got a crew and just kind of kept growing my own little business, and that's where I am now. So just constantly on the hunt for more painting jobs.
Hell yeah. Why painting?
When COVID happened and I was in the bar industry and, you know, like it really got shut down, I was already kind of in that phase of looking for more. Like I wanted to actually start building something, and I grew up right alongside my dad on job sites. You know, that's where I spent all of my sick days from school. I didn't lay at home. I went to a job site.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So kind of doing work with my dad consistently. And it was just kind of like, okay, God, like I've got these two hands. What do I do with them?
Yeah.
And I just went to painting. I don't really know the reason why, but I knew it was something that I could do. And I started that way. And I actually remodeled an entire house, like gutted it completely out in Manchester with a friend of mine. And it was just me and her. We had one helping hand in and out. Just two girls that completely did this house.
Nice.
And I was like, kind of learned what I don't mind doing and what I do mind doing. And so I just kind of stuck with painting because it was just something I was good at.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually love it. The creative part that comes behind it, and each and everybody's homes being different. And you kind of get like their style and who they are through it and all of that stuff. And I've met some great people through painting.
That's
some
super cool.
Yeah.
I love it. And it's the thing, a lesson from your dad, obviously the work ethic.
Oh, yeah.
Because you got to get a little dirty and it's a lot of work. And
I look like I rolled in all of the paint cans.
That's okay.
Oh, yeah. Get my own piece of art, guys. It's fine.
Yeah, I paint like just a little blotch on the wall. I look the same way. And I'm like, oh, shit, what's going on? No, but, he taught you to work with your hands and do that. But also you understand the crew dynamic. And you're always been very like team oriented.
Yeah.
So that carries over as well. So
there's
just a lot of things you've understood the process of painting with a team through a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, now that we know that, take us back, Austina. Take us back to young days,
Oh, boy.
young Austina, and guys, I do not remember your dad's episode, because I think it'd be interesting to time in together. I don't know. I'll try to remember to look at up during the break, but, yeah, you could tie those in together. I'll put it out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So take us back to the beginning.
So I grew up in Northern California. Small town called Redding. I've got two younger siblings, one older sibling. And it's funny, my older sibling actually kind of went the same direction career-wise. So
I didn't know you had an older sibling.
Yeah, he's 13 years older than me.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
Oh.
So he still lives out in Cali. So that's why they're not out here as often. We're trying to get them to move out here. They're the last ones left.
Yeah, come on.
But grew up in Northern Cali, small town. And like I said, I got two younger siblings.
Mm-hmm.
My mom and dad, we had a great family dynamic, out there and stuff like that. But there was a lot of stuff that kind of happened for me at a young age before we moved out here. And it's actually one of the main reasons we moved to Tennessee.
Oh, really?
Yes. I was extremely bullied as a kid.
Uh-huh.
And never felt like I fit. And, I'd get made fun of. I was a bigger girl. And I was also a tomboy. And I went to a private school when we lived out there. And, private schools definitely put the stigma that if you don't fit, within the lines, kind of like what we were talking about. Like when you don't fit in those lines, some people get intimidated by that or they're uncomfortable or, they just don't know what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of the oddball.
Yeah.
And I mean, it got bad. And I just remember one night, just trying to keep the whole story a little simple, but one night I was laying in my bedroom.
Feel free to share whatever.
I was laying in my bedroom and I had a really bad day. I had some girls kind of come over and just like shove their fingers in my face, call me names, like just for fun.
Yeah.
That was the part I think it was so confusing as a kid is it was like I didn't do anything. I'd be to myself.
Yeah.
But it was like they would just come out of the woodworks.
And it's like you were in the same place, Yeah,
I couldn't get away from it.
Yeah.
And, the private school that we went to was small.
Mm-hmm.
Like my class was 35 kids, so it's like it almost made it feel even bigger because it's like, when you go to a public school or a bigger school or something like that, you can kind of hide a little bit more.
Yeah.
Not here.
It's interesting too, because you probably known these people for a long time.
Oh, we all grew up together.
Yet they persisted. It's weird.
Yeah. And so like I said, I was just the oddball and, I did have two friends that were kind of like my, like the other oddballs, but they just weren't picked on as much as I were, or I was. And, so I did have a little bit of friendship there, but it just never was anything that I felt like I was enough.
Yeah.
Like I was okay. I was accepted as me. And so one night I was laying in my bed, like I said, and just crying. And I was just done. And my mom walked into my room. My dad was a little behind her. My mom sits on the bed, and, she just kind of puts her hand on me and, tries to ask me what's wrong. And I tell her, and she goes, well, we're going to get you away from all of this.
Yeah.
Like we're going to go start somewhere new. And that's kind of how my parents broke the news to me that we were going to move to Tennessee.
It's definitely somewhere new.
Oh yeah. And I'm not saying like that was that part of my life, up until 14 when I moved here was all like terrible.
Yeah.
But like to me as a kid, like that, I felt validated for a second. I felt like somebody was sticking up for me, which I felt like never happened. It didn't happen at school, know, and stuff like that. And, but outside of that, like when it came to our family, very active family, especially with 2 younger siblings. We're a sports family, so we're consistent year round. We were all in sports. Well, Krista tried.
You did what you could.
She did. She played soccer, and, we all played soccer for a little bit. And then we all I actually played basketball for 12 years total. Okay. I suck at it. Don't ask me to play. Terrible. I'm a defensive player. That's it. I can throw some bows. But
that's if I ever played, it's just like, go run into people. That's all I'd be useful for.
Just go block for me. Set up a screen.
I can barely dribble.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
My shooting, don't watch.
I feel you.
Yeah. So wanted to be good at it, just wasn't gifted that way. But we were a very outdoorsy family. We camped a lot. And I think I learned a lot about life doing a lot of the hands-on stuff then. Mm-hmm. So that's why it carried over into my life now. We were consistently at the lake. We went snowboarding, skiing, trying to think what else outside of the sports. Just kind of your typical outdoorsy family.
Yeah, that's cool. That's important.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You're instilled with an appreciation for nature too.
Oh yeah. We had our own garden in the backyard. Yeah. We had our own pool. Like we were probably some of the tannest kids.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I look at pictures now and I'm like, man, if that just would have stuck.
Still had that tan.
I'm just so pasty white. But yeah, no, we were very outdoorsy, very active. We were constantly on the go doing stuff, keeping a full schedule.
Well, that seems, not to interrupt, but that's positive. I think absent of school and the bullying, that's some beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
Being involved with like the outdoors and your family's doing that. Like, it's not like you had to come home and just see like you had sat in front of the TV and you weren't involved with your family. Like,
oh no.
You had something that was kept you present and gave you something to appreciate. Does that make sense?
Yeah. A lot of our core memories, we have a lot of them from, at least I do, because, I got to live that phase a little bit longer before we moved out here, and life kind of hit us really hard when we moved out here as a family. But back there, like a lot of the stuff I do now, like I said, ties back. I'm obsessed with the lake now. And I've always loved water. But now that I have the opportunity to be out there more often and like stuff like that, like I will be outside, like give me all the animals in the world, give me land, give me 4-wheelers, give me boats.
Yeah.
Just keep me outside.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's I attest a lot of that from learning those little small joys back then.
Yeah.
And creating the family memories around doing those things.
Yeah.
I cherish those moments a lot. So
that's good. That's good. You could focus on like that stuff too. In the midst of the rest of it. Did you express a lot of the bullying stuff to your family often, or?
Not often. I tried, because obviously you don't want to be viewed as like the burden and like consistently, because of how consistent it was. You don't want to be, I'm the one coming home every night that always has a problem, because my sister and brother didn't deal with it like that. They were also a lot younger.
Yeah.
No, they definitely, you can ask them today. What's so funny is like Gavin and Krista were totally, and even my older brother, they went through like the rebellious streak, in like their middle school, high school, years.
Yeah.
I was like the innocent child that like never ever rebelled, never did anything that was against the rules or stuff like that. I was like, yeah, no, that's not for me. That's not it. And then I'm good. And so they make fun of me.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, you were like the little Miss Goody Two Shoes. And I was like, sorry, I was trying to set a good example. I'm sorry, Mom and Dad, it didn't work.
Yeah, I didn't do shit.
Yeah, it did nothing.
Yeah, but you know, I think it's interesting too because I was bullied a lot growing up, but I moved a lot, so I thought, you know, I just equated it as like, well, you're the new guy. It's like the expectation,
Yeah.
like they're gonna pick on the new guy.
I'm used to it at this point.
Yeah. So, you know, just a totally different dynamic because you grew up in the same place, and it was just a consistent part of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. I guess, you know, I haven't really thought of it from that perspective.
Yeah.
You know, because like you can't get away from it.
And when it's consistent from like a young age, when you're like, we go through so many leaps as far as like learning who we are, like just learning to be us, you know, when that is so consistent in your life, it feels like it's blocked a lot of that out, or the ability for that to like grow or be shown. Like I feel like I can't focus on figuring out who I am because I'm so worried about the titles that are placed over me by all of these other people that it's like, I'm more so questioning, is that really me? Is that who I am? Should I just fit the mold? Should I just like stay in it?
Yeah.
Or is there something more out there for me?
Yeah, and like, you know, some people never figure that out.
No.
You know, it is interesting because I think I kind of faced the same thing. At least if I started somewhere new, I could meet new people. And, you know, a lot of these things carry over into your adulthood in a positive, they can carry in a positive way, right?
Yeah.
For me, it was like, well, you know, just being kind to people, you know, because I was always a new guy getting messed with. Like, if I meet someone new, I'm just going to be kind to them.
Yeah.
Until they screw me over. Like, not saying everybody does, but if they do, you know, it's like, that's a lesson learned.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think just to show compassion towards new faces and just anybody, you know, so that was a positive.
Yeah.
Right. And, you know,
you also don't know what other people are going through.
Yeah.
Because you learn what you can, like, what you, like, internalize. And you're like, well, Joe may be picked on, but, like, he doesn't go around telling everybody he's being picked on. Like, he carries himself like, well, it's just, you know, just another day, whatever, blah, 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 blah. So not everybody may know that you're being picked on. And you're like, you know, I don't know. You start looking that same way. I don't really know what you are going through. So, like, we tend to also have, like, a little more grace for people than some.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what you're battling internally.
Yeah. You focus on, like, you know, the good part of them.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of times that plays out to be a beautiful thing. Sometimes it can screw you, but
sometimes you get knocked on your ass pretty hard.
I'd much rather focus on the good in people, though.
Absolutely.
You know, than like look at everybody as like, oh, they're going to screw me over. And one more thing in my little journey too, just connecting the two. But for me, I never talked about it. Like I never brought it up because I was like a boy. Like
I'm not supposed to talk about.
I can't be
emotional
weak.
Things.
Yeah, I can't be weak. I just got bullied. You know, so I bottled it in, which is, you know, then a learning lesson in itself. But so then from there, you moved to Tennessee, and you said things shifted differently,
dramatically.
Yeah.
Like when I say, so this is kind of where, you know, I had the bullying and stuff from a young age, which is hard. And I don't want to say like traumatic, but when you have that in your background and you move to a completely different state and you have nobody here, my family was great. We were not an emotionally safe family though.
Yeah.
And that's why I said, like, I wouldn't share it all the time when things were going on, but I would share it sometimes. And it was just in those quick little moments where it's either like I got to a point where I was like just kind of fed up and done and like reached my limit. So an emotionally safe space was not something that my home, like a description of my home would not be that.
Yeah.
And I would say that when emotions were there, they were always big. Both of my parents are big feelers. They're both very passionate people. But it was just like the emotions were just never in check. And so like when you don't have that as a role model, then you don't even know how to figure out how to take care of your own. So, and then also like with the pressure of being the oldest sibling in the house, you know, there was like a stigma of I need to make sure that I'm doing okay or I'm doing the right things or, you know, whatever, like I'm the big sister. Like that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to be the guiding child. I don't know, something like that. Just make sure that I'm doing good for my siblings.
Yeah.
And so when you have that kind of as your background and your base, And you move out here. This is where like my story kind of gets a little bit darker, but we move out here and it was my first summer here. We moved July of 2005. And I actually made friends with another girl that was a transplant from California. So we connected that way. We were both the new girls,
Yeah.
you know, both from Cali. So we had things in common, places that we knew, stuff like that. She was definitely the rebellious type.
Yeah.
And
Like, whoa,
I was
troublemaker.
like, oh my God,
What do
I'm
I do?
scared. I'm terrified. But I didn't have anybody else.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of like I clung, you know? And I was having a sleepover at her house, and her parents are very much so like they know what she's doing, but they just don't want to hear about it.
Yeah, it's like
they just kind of like, they don't really parent type of, you know, like, I've already told you once, so that's all I'm going to say. And if you decide to do it, I'm not fighting you on it.
You make your own choices.
Literally.
Yeah.
And so we were staying at her house. We get there and, you know, we hung out or whatever. Well, it gets a little later. And she decides that we're going to go to a party. What?
How old
like,
were
no
you?
precursor. I was 14 years old.
Ah.
And I was like, no precursor to this. Okay. Never been to a party in my life.
Checking your pulse.
I'm like, I'm going to pass out faint. Do I cry? Like, do I cry, freak out, call my mom?
Yeah.
Like, and then I, you know, the pressures of like, no, don't be that person. Like, don't go ahead and make a weird name for yourself.
You don't want to get bullied again.
Don't want to get bullied again. So
Yeah.
like all these like fearful, like anxiety ridden thoughts just like go through my head. And I was like, okay, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really know like what's going to happen. I don't know where we're going. I don't know who we're hanging out with. Like none of that stuff. And she was like, it's going to, you know, it's going to be okay. Like, I know the people, you know, and in my head, I'm like, you just moved here too.
Yeah.
So like, you don't really know these people.
So naive.
So, and I was just like, you know what? Like, okay, like I'll be safe with you.
Yeah.
Like, cause I do know you. So I know someone. And her dad took us to the party.
Whoa.
Yeah. So like, that's what I'm saying. Like, they just kind of were like, well, I'll at least make sure you make it there safe. You
Yeah.
know, like,
Yeah.
and that night I didn't touch anything. I didn't have a touch of alcohol until I was 20 years old. So like I was not, and already with like all the other anxiety of everything going into me, like feeling like I was breaking rules, doing things I shouldn't, being somewhere I shouldn't, like that's crippling. It's very crippling. And that night I got molested in a garage. And so like I said, that's kind of where the real trauma starts.
Yeah.
Like in my life.
It was about someone at like the party or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. And the not having that emotional safe space, I did not know what to do with what had just happened. And, you know, like also going to a private school in California and stuff like that. Like you hear about, like we weren't allowed to play outside, you know, after the streetlights came on. Yeah. But outside of that, there was no real conversations about the real world yet. And
things like that, you know.
The reason my parents would give me like the rules that they would give me or the warning signs that they would give me or stuff like that, it was more so I got here and I absorbed a whole world of things in an instant. And all of a sudden that anxiety and that fear was amplified. And then the anxiety of, I, once again, am the new girl, and now this happened, and I don't want that to be how I walk into my first year of school year here.
Yeah.
I've only lived here for a month and a half, and now within the first couple months, I'm already this girl that had this happen.
You know, and it's like you walk into this new place hoping for it to be an opportunity to grow, to like start to find yourself and make some friends. And then like right out the bat, you're faced with like this whole new world of like pain.
Oh yeah.
That's like takes you back to where you were in
the internal torture was something
Northern
else.
Cali.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's like, fuck.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you cope with that?
And I didn't know how to.
Yeah.
Like, I really didn't. So obviously not knowing how to process, not knowing really what to do with it in that situation, I went.
You were like the new person, and here you are, like back into the place you were mentally.
Yeah, and trying to make the decision of, do I call the cops or my parents, or do I not? And I decided not to, out of fear, obviously. And so I shared it with my mom months down the road because I was really struggling with it. And I got made fun of at school because I went to school with the guys that did it.
Oh, so they were like,
so
rubbed
the
it
news,
in.
the news went out and they painted it a very different way.
Oh, so it was like on the news and shit.
No, it wasn't on the news. No.
Oh, okay.
Whoa.
I'm like,
No, it was just the rumors around school.
oh,
And I did put my foot down to a degree and kind of stand up for myself, because out of fear, I didn't want people to paint me the way that they were, which was wrong. Like, it wasn't true anyways.
yeah.
But I was trying to stop the reputation that they were painting for me.
Yeah.
And I went and told the school counselor, and another girl had seen me. Like, I broke down and started crying in the back of one of my classrooms because the bullying had started again, you know? And so I kind of just started, and she walked me. I'm very grateful for her. She walked me down to the counselor's office, and I let it out. I didn't let all of it out, but I pretty much said, you know, it's untrue, because obviously I still didn't want, even with everything going on, I didn't want it to blow up into the cops getting involved and, you know, my parents hearing
You didn't want
the
that
true
like
story.
attention. Yeah,
Correct.
There's a lot of factors.
There's
sure.
a lot. And so went down to counselors, and I pretty much just was like, it's not true. Like, this is what's going on, like, whatever. And I didn't go to a huge public school. When we moved here, it's a small one down in Spring Hill Thompson Station.
Okay.
And so, like, I think my 8th grade class was maybe like 100, more than what I had before, but like maybe 120 students.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it was kind of said, you know, I pointed out who the two guys were that were pretty much the start of the problem. They got pulled into the counselor's office with the principal as well. And they were pretty much told, like, you know, if we hear more of this, there's going to be bigger problems. You know, she has kept whatever has happened to herself.
Yeah.
But we are not going to do is slandering somebody. And I was grateful. I don't think a lot of schools and people do that. They don't get involved anymore because they're too, like, scared to step on people's toes and, you know, technically place blame on their child.
Yeah.
And so it took a while, but it got quiet, you know, like the bullying stopped. And then we went into high school. So people kind of got separated into 3 different high schools anyways. So, and I was not the biggest deal. You know, there's so many other things that go on in your high school and middle school years that like, it just, mine kind of just was old news, went away.
Well, that's how people are now. The news changes and the whole, like, their whole perception of reality changes. They're like, oh, this is happening now.
Change focus.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like all in or nothing.
Which I guess is maybe kind of good for you.
Yeah, because I could hide again.
Yeah.
Yeah, like not necessarily like I needed to hide.
I'm not saying that's
like,
a positive thing, but I guess like the tension wasn't on you anymore, so that was a good thing.
Yeah, and it allowed me, not that I still knew what to do with it, but I finally actually had a second to process.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't have to deal with all the outside noise.
Yeah.
But so I went through high school. Nothing really big, or, you know, I played basketball in high school. Still got made fun of in different ways.
Because you couldn't shoot? I'm just kidding.
Yeah. We're supposed to tell anybody that one. But no, actually, I was called Virgin Mary. So it's weird. I got like the exact, not opposite, because just like context, I was not fully engaged in sex.
Yeah.
It was all foreplay actions.
Yeah.
And so everybody at school, by the time, I got to my sophomore, like she's a Virgin Mary, because I also didn't date anybody. Like I wasn't allowed to, for one. But once again, there wasn't even the rebellious want in me to do anything that would break the rules. So I was like, I'm not even secretly dating anybody behind my parents' back.
Yeah.
Having secret boyfriends and, stuff like that. But it was also very weird because at that point in time, to kind of like amp like why I didn't, we went to a church out here, and I had a traumatizing experience, all because I said that somebody was attractive in this church. And come to find out, very culty church.
Oh, like the pastor pulled out a snake and was like,
oh my God. I was literally singled out. I'm like, I'm a 15-year-old girl.
We've got a sinner over here.
Yes, that's exactly how it was. Like, just go ahead and crucify me.
Burn the witch.
Yes. And I was like, so then that's traumatizing, because I'm like, wow, for once I'm like not fearful of a guy for 2 seconds, and I just act like a normal teenage girl. Like, and all hell broke loose.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I was seen as an outsider at church, and shared that with my parents. And my dad started seeing some things, and we got out of there quick.
Yeah.
Like, we had been there too long, but it was like, they put the good front on and like all the pretty things. But once you got more involved and deeper into it, then all of a sudden there goes that veil.
Yeah.
And so that also was like, I am not talking about boys. I am not looking at boys. I'm not doing nothing, because it just keeps messing with me. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not okay with it. So that went on. I didn't date anybody until the end of my junior year. And of course I got permission from my parents. And of course my dad pulls out that stupid application. That's like a joke, but it's meant to like intimidate. And he's like, if you're going to date my daughter, there's this application. I'm going to need you to fill it out.
It's so funny because like now I know Jay, and it's just like, of course.
It makes sense, doesn't it?
Like if I didn't know him, I'd be like, that's so silly. But now it's like, I can just picture him doing that.
Oh yeah.
Like right now. That's so funny.
And he's like, if not, like there's a baseball bat.
And it's like the corniest thing ever.
Always.
You love this application.
I'm like, and I'm like, do I really have to turn this back into you? And he's like, yes, or you're not dating him. And I'm like, okay, we're just going to embarrass me right off the bat. We're going to get the uncomfortability right out of the way.
Yeah.
And so he filled it out, and I turned it in, and I said, I don't want to talk about this ever again. So, but like had my first boyfriend, and that I went through, we dated for almost 3 years. I think it was 2.5. But we dated from a little after midway junior year into our freshman year in college, and ended up literally within the first month of him being down there, he cheated on me. And so now there starts that emotional trauma. Like,
listen, you see this in the application? It says, yeah.
I told you, my dad gave you a warning, but now you're in a different state. So
Yeah.
you just lucked out a little bit that you're a little without or outside of the reaching zone. So, that kind of amplified the feeling of no worth, like just the lack of self-worth.
Yeah, and trust.
Yeah.
I'm sure at this point you're like, dude, I can't trust shit.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody, nothing. Like, I can't trust friends to keep me out of positions. That's kind of where that first friendship,
Yeah.
like she didn't look out for me. She didn't protect me. Like, I wasn't anything that was important to her. And then the situation that happened, I can't even go and be just present at a party, and I didn't drink. I didn't touch anything.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to make, even though going there wasn't supposed to be there, like my parents wouldn't approve or, whatever, probably not the best idea. I still tried to make smart decisions while I was there. And it still didn't work out for me.
Yeah.
And then I wait, and, I don't make other decisions that like put me back to those types of places.
Yeah.
I try to do the right thing. I try to set myself up to be good,
Yeah.
and I still got hurt. And obviously at that point now, like, I know a lot of it has to do with maturity. And, you know, he was in a weird place. He's the one that I called you about in tears.
Yeah.
That went down that path because of his now wife. So there was a lot going on that, like, now I've learned that he was going through at that point in time, that he was fighting supposedly, but there's a lot of other stuff that I found out that had nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
And, you know, so go through that trauma. Then I started, you know, dating somebody a little less than a year later.
So when was this timeline?
This was about 2000. So this was 2011. So I graduated high school 2010.
Yeah.
So this was around.
Oh, I remember the one you called me crying about. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I was like, no, that has nothing to do with anything. I'm gonna get that out of here.
I need you to help me figure this out.
God, I hate when people like it perverted what I believe. Anyways, but the people use beliefs for all kinds of things that don't stand for that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because they don't understand it.
No. They take it and create it into something that's their own version of it.
Sickening.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. So I started getting in a relationship with somebody else. And we dated a year, and then he proposed. When he proposed, a big part of me said yes to somehow make this the way I was worth something.
Yeah.
Like, I put my worth into saying yes. Now, at that point in time, my version of love, did I love the guy? I thought I did. I did. But the pressure from everything else definitely pushed me.
Yeah, it kept you from making like the decision that you knew truly what was.
Yes. Yeah. And so I said yes. We were engaged for a year. We got married in 2012. And by September of 2014, we separated. And I had, within this time frame of us actually being married, I worked overtime as a manager at a restaurant. I was also going to school full time at MTSU. Driving back and forth, I commuted. And he, obviously we were young, you know, and so he was only 2 years older than me. He's still trying to figure out who he is, you know, and I'm trying to figure out who I am. And he got this new job, working downtown Nashville, and it was some corporate finance office. Mm-hmm. And so he worked there, and stuff just started feeling off. And mind you, this was also my stint of not really taking care of my physical health either. I played sports all the way through high school. Yeah. And then after that, I decided not to pursue sports for a little while because I didn't get a full ride scholarship anywhere. I was potentially offered the opportunity to try out to get a partial playing softball at MTSU. Yeah. But I kind of got burnt out by the coaching staff that I had at the bare end of my high school career. And it just kind of sucked the joy out of playing sports for me. Yeah. You know, so I just needed a break. And like I said, growing up, like we were year-round athletes. We were consistently always involved in something. So I just needed a break. And I plummeted to, you know, I got up to just under 215 pounds. Okay. For those that don't know, I'm only 5'8". Yeah. And that's big, you know, for me. I was very miserable.
Bigger than you want to be.
Bigger than I want to be.
Yeah.
I was large and in charge.
Yeah. Get out of my way.
I'm just kidding. I was a bowling ball.
I don't know why I expressed your voice would be that way.
Literally, that would be me. That would be me.
You made the jokes. I had to just roll
Hey, I'm here for it. I can laugh at myself. But I got, you know, I just really let myself go. But I went through a very depressive stage because my house was not happy. You know, like I'm trying to do, you know, what the world puts out there is like being a wife. And, you know, like, but I'm also financially, we're not in a place for me to stop working, for me not to go to school anymore. Like all of this stuff. So it was just like I was kind of drowning myself in everything and I couldn't focus on one thing.
Yeah.
And so stuff at the house was just not great, grand, and wonderful. And what sucked is like it felt like that was a problem because he was trying to keep up with his parents. So it's like keeping up with the Joneses,
Yeah.
you know, where, you know, his parents live this life and they kind of expect him
His
to
life
also
too.
live that way.
Yeah.
And he could feel it. And there was a lot of pressure on him. And I will never ignore that.
Mhm.
Is that he was going through stuff.
Of
And
course.
I know that he was, because we would end up in arguments and fights and it would stem from, you know, certain things. And even now there are certain things that I discovered when I went to therapy, you know, that happened then. So now at this, you know, age, I can look at it and I can understand his side a little bit. I'm not giving him excuses,
Yeah.
but I know I can at least know what may have started the fire.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And he gets this new job, like I said, starts working around all these different people. And I had switched restaurants because I couldn't do the full-time management thing anymore. So I had just started at a different restaurant, taking just a waitress position. And he started having these guys' nights,
Oh,
playing poker.
just separates
Just
the
a
poke.
different kind of
Her.
poker.
Poke her.
Yeah.
And her. No.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And so the weirdest thing is like when I would either text him on shift or, you know, whatever, just be like, hey, like letting you know I got cut, I should be done, you know, stuff like that. 75% of the time my text messages wouldn't go through. And he comes to this whole excuse of, well, you know, he really lives way out. There's not good service out here and, you know, whatever and blah, blah, blah. But at that point in time, he always came home to me. And I took that as enough because of my own self-worth. Once again, I'm choosing to ignore signs because I didn't want to be looked at as a failure again.
Yeah.
And I was fighting all this stuff. Well, one of my longtime best friends, Colby, man, her and I were funny, but we were at MTSU and I started sharing all these things with her. And we, you know, do the thing that us girls do. We go full FBI, you know, like looking into everything on all
Like
the
one glass of
socials.
wine, you're like,
Literally.
you know?
So we start like going, and I'm like, we get on his page and we start looking. This girl was consistently like liking his stuff on social media all the time. And it was like a newer face,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And I was like, oh, this is weird. And so we look at her page. Oh, funny. They work together. Pieces started adding up.
Yeah.
And one night we had a plan that I was going to get off early, or at least and what I was going to do is I was going to say, you know, I was like going to swap out. So I wasn't going to close that night. I was going to try and be an earlier out. And because supposedly this person, his name was Greg. His name was Greg.
I had a good buddy named Greg.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad it wasn't this one.
No, it's definitely not.
But I had also seen like text messages come through on his phone, and I had confronted him one time. Like, this is how like so much I didn't want to fail in my eyes. Like literally a text message came across the screen while he was in the shower, and it literally said from Greg, I can't wait to see you, pumpkin.
I mean,
Here's the
I
thing.
will say, me and my friend, that's how we
See?
talk together. So my wife just like, you know.
No, and I mean, like, I'm all for like being dumb and being like, what you need, cupcake. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'll do that with my friends.
Yeah.
But it was just like in this point in time, I was like, oh my God.
You felt that.
I felt it.
Yeah.
Once again.
You knew.
And I confronted him about it. And he was like, gave me the whole, it's just a joke. Like, we just kind of mess with each other like that. Like, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I am going to choose to not look at the red flags and trust you. I decided, like, going back to what I was saying of, you know, getting off early one night, and Greg would normally drop him off he would drive them to their house, because I guess to his house, can't remember the exact situation is, but like somehow it was easier for him to like get his car parked at one place. They would all meet there and then carpool the rest of the way to this Greg's house.
Interesting.
When I tell you I was so stupid, like letting this go as long as it did. That's one thing is I was like, I wish I just would have called it out a little bit earlier, but I did call it out, but I just believed him. You know what I mean? When he would give me whatever excuse. And so I was like, I'll tell him I'll come pick him up. So Greg doesn't have to drop him back off at his car.
Yeah.
I'll come get him. And because how like normal is that for your significant other to just be like, oh, I'll come get you, babe. Like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
When I say he panicked when I called him, he panicked. But at first I had texted him twice and the text didn't go through. And I went a little on the psycho train for a second because when me and my friend Colby had gone all FBI mode, I had, saw this girl, saw her profile. Well, she had tagged the apartment complex she was living in at the time at one point. And I was like, I am this close because it wasn't that far from where I worked. This close to just making a lap and just figuring it out for myself.
Yeah.
And I literally rolled out of the parking lot and to the place I worked, and he called me. And he called me in a frenzy because he had seen my text about I'm leaving work, send me an address, I'll start heading towards the area that you said that you're in. He's like, no, like it's okay, like we're already on the road, just go back, I'll meet you there, whatever, blah blah blah. So I just pull back into the parking lot, and because at this point I'm like, if he really was there, his car is no longer going to be there, so I won't have my proof. You know what I mean? So I pull back into the restaurant parking lot, and I just kind of stay there and I wait. In my brain, I already said this man is going to get dropped off at the back of the building or somewhere where I cannot see the car and I cannot see the person. Lo and behold, I swear less than 30 seconds then that thought went, because I thought about moving my car.
Comes running from behind the building.
And I was like, you have got, and I just broke down because in that moment I knew.
Yeah.
And I was like, and he was drunk out of his mind. He had come back intoxicated probably 2 other times from these poker nights.
Yeah.
And he was like way over this time.
Yeah.
And I just cried the whole way home. And I kept it. I didn't say a word. And with him being as intoxicated as he was like, he didn't really know what was going on. Like, he just kind of like was trying to figure his own life out and not throw up in the car.
Yeah.
So we get home and, I end up confronting and stuff like that. And it turned into I came home from work one day. I think it was, from school. And he was gone. And he took all of his stuff. He knew he'd been caught.
Yeah.
But he denied it. Turned everything around, blamed me, would never admit it. But the energy and everything that I got from his family when everything was going down, they knew. And I think he admitted it to them. And obviously that being their child and them wanting to keep face, they were never going to give me what I needed or what I needed to hear. Yeah. But it...
Jesus.
Jeez, Bailey.
Come on, girl.
But so I had to... It was that feeling of invalidation because, like, you were caught and you can't even look me in the face. Tell me why. Or tell me that you even did it. Yeah. Like, just admit it.
Yeah.
I've seen the text messages. Literally watched you get out of a car and stumble your way across the parking lot in a panic because I was getting ready to find you, literally.
Yeah.
And the sickness in my stomach, knowing that he would go and have these wine and dine nights with another woman and come home to me.
Yeah.
Was something else. Like, that's a whole different type of hurt and betrayal.
And then hiding it. Yeah.
Well, and also at that point in time, starting a family was a part of the conversation. So we're in the process of trying to have a family and setting ourselves up and doing all of these things. And while we're I'm like sacrificing myself for you, throwing myself to start our family and do all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And you're dabbling with pretty much doing that with somebody else. And that's something so sacred to me, like having a family, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And so that happened. We separated. The day that I went to get my stuff and move out, I had my little brother, his friend, which are both under the age of 18. And that'll be an important fact in a second. My mom in a U-Haul trailer. My dad was working. He wasn't able to get off work last minute. So we go get all of my stuff out. Himself, his mom, and his aunt are all closed away in the master bedroom of the house we were renting. And he, quote unquote, moved all of my stuff over while I wasn't there because I went home after he wasn't at the house.
Yeah.
You know, because I shouldn't be alone. So in between, he went back to the house and kind of separated our stuff.
Yeah.
Well, there was a couple items that he attempted to say were not mine. And it wasn't like I was trying to vindictively like go in and take them or anything like that. Like more so I was just like, while I'm packing up my things, that I just saw it as mine, you know, and maybe he just didn't move it over here. You know, like, you know, it wasn't any type of, like I said, vindictive, like, oh, I'm going to take everything. Yeah. Like I was literally just taking my stuff in the one space.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I hear the master bedroom door like open and he comes flying out of the bedroom and just charges at me. And the look in this man's eyes, he's never been physical, but like he was on the brink one time. He did like grab me and like push me up against the wall, like while he was talking to me, you know what I mean? But this like just charge from a man coming straight at me is like something that's like burned in my brain. But he came at me and like his mom and his aunt are trying to pull him back. And my mom and then my little brother stepped in and pretty much played the protective piece.
Yeah.
And was like, you're not going to touch my sister. And if you want to have it out with somebody, try me. I'm also under the age of 18.
Yeah.
And we got me outside and he just, you know, started yelling. He backed up, you know, whatever. His mom's telling him like, don't do it. It's not worth it, blah, blah, blah. And so that was the end of like the marriage.
Yeah.
Done there.
I've been through more difficult shit.
Absolutely.
So I'm like, I don't know, getting home, being a dad, like all that stuff, that's easy as fuck.
Oh, yeah.
Life is hard. Like
being a parent,
a husband is just like the easiest parts of my life. And I'm cool with that. So,
absolutely.
I don't mind diaper changes. I don't mind. I love bath time. I love brushing her hair. It's like one of my favorite things.
Oh my gosh. It's my same thing with Alani.
Yeah. I get
no joke. I'm like, Shay, I got it. Like, don't worry about it.
Yeah. When I'm getting ready for bed, I'm like, just after we brush her teeth, get her pajamas on. She's all clean.
Oh yeah.
And like, I'm just like brushing her hair. Like something about that moment is just really special.
Well, I will say one of my like small memories with my dad is we would like every now and then, not all the time, but every like special night that he would actually come home a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
He would brush mine and my sister's hair. And something about dad brushing our hair was something else.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't like mom's daily like yank and pull trying to get our hair up into ponytails. You know, it was just kind of like we were just sitting and he would just brush our hair. We'd be up on their bed in their master bedroom. And
it's an intimate thing.
Absolutely.
You know, it's like I would only ever brush her hair or like my wife if she asked me. I don't think she'd never really like if you know, I'm definitely not brushing some other lady's hair. Like, hey, I got you. That would be a little bit like
just walk around with a constant hairbrush in your pocket.
Do you need your hairbrush? I'll make like content off of that, just brushing random people's hair.
Oh my god, I would die.
That'd be actually pretty freaking funny. It's just like this awkward pause.
Yeah. Oh my god, you probably make money off of it.
Oh my god.
So much.
Bringing up ideas.
Oh yeah.
Hairbrushing.
Put it on your nose.
I mean, like, babe, it's for content.
For content.
Hair brushing.
I'm dead.
But anyways. So we were going into your transition from the whole divorce.
Yes.
Yes.
You said you had questions for me. Do you remember what those were?
Oh, so, you know, thinking on it, I just listened to you talk. One thing is that, you know, that obviously a hard situation to face. And you had said you knew he was You knew early, way before that he
Yeah.
was doing something.
Yeah.
You just kept moving.
Uh-huh. I thought that was the way to be strong, but also I was like less worried about myself and more worried about how I would look to everybody else.
Yeah. And I was having this conversation with somebody, and I forget who, or I was reading something about like developmental years and stuff. Yeah, that's what it was. And, you'd face a lot when you were younger.
Mm.
And so you didn't really, it's like during their developmental stages, especially, you're learning how to trust, and who you in that period, you can, if it's taken care of, you can learn how to trust people, who to trust, how to recognize people that aren't really good or resonate with you.
Yeah.
So I maybe like through the years of facing the things you had, it's like you're faced with this dilemma, and you don't know how to read the signs so clear that you can make a firm decision.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that's not just you. That's a
Yeah.
lot of people. I mean, things in my life that's probably made things a lot more difficult for me.
Yeah.
Growing up and in situations, but at the same time, like obviously you constantly learn, right? And so you uncover those things just in a different stage of your life. But yeah, do you think that's probably a big contribution, is a lot of these things you faced before is just like you didn't, I don't know, you wanted to trust, but you just didn't know how to.
Well, and I also didn't know what my own voice sounded like.
Yeah, I think
your own internal, you know what I mean? I was so flooded with outside opinions or thoughts or ideas, or, what the world said was good or bad, or what my parents said was good or bad, or like all of this stuff that I didn't know what my own voice sounded like.
Yeah, and then it sounds like you never had like time to yourself.
Oh no.
Like this whole time you went through these seasons, and it was either with like, other people, your family, or like a guy or something like that. And then, so you're at this point and you're like, you never had that space just to figure out who Austina is.
Yeah. I had to cling for validation consistently because I feel like from an early start, I never had any.
Yeah.
And so when it came to, all of these relationships, I think part of the reason that I stuck around longer than I should is because I hadn't found that yet. Yeah. And I didn't want to give up, and I didn't want to, I would get a glimpse of it. It almost felt like, because, well, they chose to be with me. Like they picked me when it could have been someone else or whatever. So even though I was going through all of the bad stuff, it was still like I said, with my ex-husband, he would still come home to me.
Yeah.
I was still somewhat being picked in a way to where it felt like the world before would never.
Yeah.
And so when you have this consistent childhood memory of never being the it girl, never being the first one picked for dodgeball, you know what I mean? Like always being the last for everyone or anything, or not being considered at all, that plays a big role into like why I feel like I was chasing validation, and I was chasing validation from men.
Yeah.
And I know my dad kind of talked about it a little bit on his podcast, but I made the comment about the house not being an emotional safe place. My dad was the grind all the time type man. Yeah. He ran his own business in California. Like his office was in our home.
Yeah.
And all I saw was my dad work. It was just work, which in my brain, that's what a dad was supposed to do.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of moments where he could have slowed down. Mm-hmm. And so I think there's a lack of validation from my father. And I can only say this now because I've worked through a lot of these things.
Yeah.
And I can say confidently is there are things from my home where the invalidation already started. Yeah. And then all of that outside stuff just took it and amplified it to a whole new level.
Yeah.
So my relationships very much showed that.
And obviously, like, I think most people can reflect on their fathers, especially like from our generation that were constantly just working.
Yeah.
I work. You know? And I think inherently that's the expectation of a father. And even when you become a father, you expect, like, I got to do that. I told you earlier, my purpose is to like protect and provide.
Yep.
But I also need to be like, I also understand, thank God I'm at the place I am now. I need to have that emotional connection and that intentional time.
Well, it's protect, provide, but a lot of people forget the last one and be present.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but not just physically present. Because like even though my dad's office was in the house and I could like see him through the doors.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like be present in every way.
Yeah.
So that last one tends to be the one that gets put on the back burner.
That's the most important part.
And then, yeah.
You know,
it is hard when you're trying to find a balance and you are trying to make sure that you're providing and all of that stuff. Like nobody's going to discount that at all.
Yeah. It just takes extra effort.
Absolutely.
You know?
It's hard, but once you get in a rhythm of it, you know, like, and I'm very grateful my dad is around, like we've mended that a little bit and, you know, we've moved forward and moved past that and we are making new memories now. And he is being, more present than he was before. You know, I'm grateful for that, but because of that lack of it in my house, I had to go find it somewhere else.
Yeah.
And it, like I said, it showed in the cycle of like kind of my dating career. 'Cause I'll make the next couple very short, but I have been cheated on in every relationship other than my current. The one right before, so there's 3 other relationships. Let's just go ahead and throw that out there. It wasn't like there was 20, but after my marriage, there was three relationships. The first 2 lasted 3 years. And the last one only lasted 7 months. It was my shortest relationship and the most abusive. That 7-month one, I was cheated on with a couple of women. I actually found out by one of the women having a connection, a mutual friend, and was actually lovely Whitney Palmer.
Oh, Whitney.
Oh, Whitney.
Yeah,
my
Whitney's
sister. Yeah.
Man, Whitney's cool as hell.
I love her. But she ultimately had a connection because they both live in the same area as this other girl. And I already got a hunch. It was the secret text messages, phone calls, FaceTime calls put in under a different name. Once again.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of other stuff that he like had got. I was seeing the flags and the signs again. And he was the most physically abusive, and sexually abusive. And this is actually who I was dating when I met Lydia.
Oh.
And Lydia and I, that's kind of how we connected.
Yeah.
Because I was in the process of making the decision to try and get out. And she was already physically out, but dealing with the divorce and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And this is before you two were together.
Yeah, like right before.
Yeah.
There wasn't much space in between.
There wasn't much space in between. She literally, it was funny too. I take absolutely no credit, but it's still funny that she messaged me one day and she was like, I just want to say thank you for sharing Joe's story that one time.
Yes. I didn't know this, but thanks, Austina.
Yes. She was like, if it wasn't for you, like, you know, because she asked me who that was. And I was like, oh, it's my buddy Joe. And she was like, that's what set off.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wow. Okay.
You know, and then here Instagram is pushing me away. But guys, I got married because of y'all.
Yeah. Come on, Instagram.
I got a beautiful family because of Instagram.
Yeah.
I was going to hashtag Instagram family, but I guess not.
I guess not.
So whatever. I'm just kidding. That's funny though.
But yeah, no, hilarious.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that's how Lydia and I connected. Is she helped me a lot, kind of stand up for myself a little bit, or at least like make some internal decisions and come to some conclusions on my own.
Yeah. And
so that relationship ended shortly after I had met Lydia. And it got pretty bad. Like thrown on the asphalt, thrown out of the car, shoved on the sidewalk out front of my apartment. A lot of the grabbing, shoving. He never laid a fist into me. I will say that. Never laid a fist into me, but it was throwing me. Like that was his thing, was throwing me. And then, like I said, the sexual abuse.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of, forcefulness and doing things I didn't want to do and, against my will.
Honestly, what a blessing you met her though too, because she's pretty open about like what she went through and
yes,
a lot of those things.
Yes,
and tied into that,
and that's what made I felt validated and heard once again by her. Yeah, and it was like, this is real. This is where it can lead, because she definitely had it worse than I did in some situations. You know what I mean? Like she went through some things that I didn't, and I went through some things that she may not have. Yeah. But it's so beautiful, as much as that can sound twisted, it's beautiful the connections we can make through our traumas.
I mean, all these people.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah. And so like take it as you want, but like I think it's a beautiful thing. It hurt at the time, but like, you know, your story could change. I don't care if, you know, 4,000 people hear it, but if one person walked away with something, you know, like that's all that
we all connect.
Yeah, that's it. That's all you need.
Exactly, you know, and like shout out to my wife, by the way, because she is so strong.
Oh yes, I love
She's
that
so
woman.
strong. Like her mindset, given what she went through and like who she is, like
some people would have crumbled and
it's
been
a beautiful
done.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's part of like one of my favorite things about her. Is just she's a strong fucking woman.
Yes, she is.
Yeah, and I love her so much for it.
Oh,
anyways, you can get me emotional.
Well, I love her too, so that's okay.
Babe.
I don't have a tissue for you.
It's okay. Bailey, I'll just
start rubbing the dog on your eyes.
No, but I gotta shout that out. But yeah, I think it's really powerful when you meet people like that, especially going through those things in your life that you're like, oh my God, you get it. Like,
yeah,
you were there.
Yeah,
like look at you. How did you overcome that? What can I do? Like, because it gives you someone to lean into that like can help you actually overcome things.
Yeah,
and then when you start doing that, you start working on yourself. That's when you can actually work through all the things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what was cool is like, so I never really went longer than probably 6 to 8 months where I'd be single from my first relationship to that one.
Yeah.
After that one, I actually had the courage to be okay, to be alone. I didn't need validation from anyone else. You know what I mean? Like I knew what I went through and I knew that I needed to heal. I knew that I needed to get myself mentally in a better place, mentally and emotionally and spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
And so I focused on me for the first time. And that was at 30, you know?
And that's what you needed all along.
And that's what I needed, is I needed to be okay with being myself first. And I will say, I am ever changing. Like I really am. And I know that for some people, they look at that and they're like, well, she doesn't really know who she is. No, I love not being stagnant. Like that's me. And so my core values will remain the same.
Exactly.
My heart will remain the same.
Yeah.
But like the things that I do in life and my interests and, you know, all of this stuff, like I love mixing it up, you know?
Yeah.
And so I love new stuff. Yeah. And that's where I've been a part of so many things that it's, you know, I'm a jack of all trades, but master of none. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I don't take that as a bad compliment. I think that's a great compliment because I've learned so much.
Well, that's like the ultimate, that's what life's all about though, is experience.
Yeah.
And so you've experienced.
Yeah.
And that's what we're here to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And in that 19 months, I learned what that felt like.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I have shut myself out from so much experience.
Exactly. So you get to do, yeah.
Oh yeah. But I think what's also good is I also am now like experiencing these things with more appreciation, you know? And I think that's why on my path of life, it was done later.
Yeah.
Is because I could appreciate it at a different level. Yeah. Sure. You know, I kind of wish I didn't wait so long in some degrees and, you know, started making these memories or doing these things or getting interested in them earlier, but I'm still going to take them when I can, as I can, you know, and do the most that I can with them right now.
Yeah.
And I'll forever be grateful. And that's what like, we were talking earlier about like if I could have a job based off of just like the amount of people that I love to connect with and I'm networked with, like 100%, you know, being tied to so many people that you've even had on here and stuff like that. Like I love it. Like I thrive for just knowing more people, knowing more about what they do.
Getting close to, yeah. Hearing about their experience and just, connecting with people.
Oh yeah. And then just being like, well, how can I help you?
Yeah.
Like, that's just kind of, to me, how relationship works.
There's definitely a market for that.
Oh, yeah, somewhere.
Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, just connecting people in general. I mean, a lot of people, that's hard for them to do.
Yeah.
And honestly, connection is what helps you grow.
Yeah.
So I think, who knows?
I mean, I could talk to a wall.
Yeah. And that wall has some worth.
It does. It's holding the building up.
It does. But no, I think that's really cool. You know, you say you like waited, but like, hell, you know, a lot of people maybe never take that step into experience. They just kind of become comfortable where they're at and they just don't do that.
Yeah.
So I think my personal opinion is like, it all happened when it was necessary.
Yeah.
You know, and I think this is the lessons that come along with it for you.
Yeah.
You know, like you're experiencing and like, I'm glad you get to do that.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's really cool.
It's so fun.
Or some people like, hell, I got a buddy that's start doing that till he was like 60, you know?
Yeah.
He's like, dude, I got so many years ahead. And I'm like, that's the fucking mindset to
That's
have.
the mindset.
It's
Absolutely.
beautiful, you know? So I think whether or not you know, do it 20 years ago or 20 years ahead, like as long as you're like finally getting to do that, I think it's a great thing.
And I will say that's also another thing that came out of like my parents divorcing, right? Because there was a lot of toxicity that went on and stuff like that. Both of my parents in their 60s, you know, and you can attest to it because your parents, you know, pretty much the same. Like they're out there getting it, you know what I mean? And like my dad is out getting it in his own way, and my mom's doing it in her own way, but like my mom still gets out on a set of skis and we go snowboarding and skiing together. You know what I mean? And then my dad is out here driving a boat for us, and we're, you know, out wake surfing and, you know, doing all the things that kind of relate like what we did as a kid. But like now he's just kind of like more able to enjoy it and be a part of it.
Yeah.
Like it amps him up. You should see him. He bought a log splitter, and this was around Thanksgiving. He gets a log splitter, takes it down to the lake house. And when I tell you, my dad having each and every one of us help him split all of these logs for the fire pit. Oh my gosh. Like, his whole face lit up. And I was like, this means the world to Dad. And we are doing nothing but splitting wood for the fire.
He's just like, hell yeah.
Yeah. True bonding moment right now. And
That's so funny.
Okay, Dad.
Yeah, but you know, it makes him happy, and you're getting to have that. Like, that's still a special moment.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? As simple as it is. And like, honestly, those special moments are typically very simple.
Oh, yeah.
You know? So I love it. I think that's a great thing. And there was something I was going to say.
But I took the thought right out of your head.
No, I mean, it happens, guys.
Yeah.
Just a human being.
Jeez.
Kind of. Not really. No, but God, there's something I wanted to pinpoint on too. And it seemed, well, it'll come back around. What I see though is like I don't know, you've been through what you have, but you found yourself now. Mm-hmm. And you know, I think I know who I am, but I'm not like comfortable there. Like I feel like I'm ripping mask off every day, and I intend to do so the rest of my life. You know, that's growth. Yeah. And I think you're doing it as well. You're getting to experience a lot of new things, and you're really just growing more. Yeah. But you know, you're coming down more centered into who you are, and I think that's awesome. Yeah. You just had to go through some shit to get there. Yeah. And
a part of who this version of me now, with everything that I went through, I now have boundaries that even I will respect for myself, because they could have been there before, but I didn't respect them enough to, you know, follow them or be true to them or whatever. But now I know that I have my own power and my own self-worth, and I love myself enough that I may not be like the best of the best, love myself, you know, or whatever, but I love myself enough now that I will stick to my guns. And when stuff gets out weird, you know, or whatever, I have boundaries.
Boundaries are important.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never really, I mean, hell, I didn't start really understanding those till recently. Yeah. You know, I think my wife for that too, big time. But yeah, boundaries are very important, man, because they'll save you a lot of shit. But you got to learn how to set those. And like most of the time, we're not raised with like an understanding of boundaries.
No. And it's not a cookie cutter thing either.
No, they just kind of, you grow into those. Yes. You start to learn over time, okay, this is a line I don't want crossed. Correct. You know? Yeah. And so you know where to draw that line. Yeah. And just, you can't have an expectation of it. You just know it's like crossing into your zone and say, hey, back this shit up.
You're like, that can go back outside my circle. Thank you.
Exactly. Yeah. I do want to transition towards the, you know, where you're at now in the journey. So you've obviously... you're finding yourself, you know, and you never voiced that, like you found out who you are, or do you know who you are? How do you feel? Are you pretty established now? I mean, thinking on all those experiences in the past, the bullying, the molestation, you know, and obviously all the positives too, the being outdoors, but then like the family dynamic, how does that encapsulate and come full circle to Austina today?
So right now, I think, you know, we'll always, like we talked about, we'll always be growing and we'll always be learning, and like, you know, changes happen and, you know, we got to adapt and stuff like that. But I will say, as an individual, like my core, I think I found me. Yeah. So,
you know, like what you stand for.
Yes. And I notice a lot of it in like my relationship now, and stuff like that. And also a lot of that has to do with who I'm with. Like that's a big part. Obviously, as I'm with a safe person that values me.
Shout out to Shay.
Shout out to Shay. But I think I finally am allowing, it's been a tough ride because you know how they always say like the hardest relationship is the healthy one that comes after the toxic one.
Mm-hmm.
So we've definitely, had our challenges and our battles and learning and trying to, because he's had a hard past as well, but it's learning each other's triggers, and also understanding that I'm going to respect your triggers and traumas, but you also need to respect that I am not those people. Yeah. You know what I mean? So like, give me grace when I do something that I don't even know triggers you.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I mean? And don't automatically just try your best not to just go down into that place.
Just say, hey, that triggers me. This
Correct.
is why. And then you can help each other. Like, you know.
Communication's been a big thing.
Yeah.
And especially when you're learning that, now you can be emotionally heard and safe.
Mm-hmm.
And we're both learning that with both of our paths and stuff like that from before. But I will, like I said, my core, I have found who I am and I am proud of myself. Like I said, there's still things that I need to work on. Yeah. I'm healing, but I'm not healed.
Yeah.
I think Jelly Roll's wife actually said that on a podcast one day. And I was like, that makes so much sense. Yeah. Like everybody has this expectation that you're supposed to be healed. No. You know what I mean? Like there's an end game.
No.
And it's like, that's not how that works because things keep happening in our lives on the daily that we are in no control of.
Yeah.
And so it either adds to the stockpile of things, like challenges and things that we need to learn to go through that we've never been through before. Like, something traumatic could have happened and now we've got to do that, on top of still trying to handle these battles over here.
Yeah.
Like it's ever changing.
Or you're like, and then a lot of these things too, you got these blockages, right, from childhood. And there's a lot of these things maybe trigger something or bring up something that you don't even realize happened to you. So now you got to face that and be like, oh, now I got to work through this thing and grow from it.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of shit that like for most people, you heard of inner child work and stuff like that.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of those things that'll come up. No one is actually healed. No one's got it figured out.
No.
And if you say that, then I just
lying.
I'm not going to waste my time talking because, that's just how it is. And so I think you're always uncovering those things, but I think it's great, and you talked about the communication thing and, that's so relatable, fortunately for Lydia and I, like when we met, she had been doing the work on herself. Me, I didn't. And so, I was coping, but that was like in that space, but that wasn't fixing anything.
Yeah.
And so I had to go through that, like anxiety. Like I started having anxiety attacks. I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? Like I don't get anxiety.
Yeah.
I don't get no anxiety.
Suck it up, buttercup.
Fake stuff. No, but I was, and I'd spiral. And I realized that that's actually a pretty big factor in like a lot of decisions I made over the years.
Yeah.
I just never recognized what it was.
Yeah.
That feeling. And I'd spiral and I'd be like, I'm just telling you now, I'm going to fuck this up.
Yep.
Like, this is too good to be true. You accept me for now, but you're going to want to change me and I'm going to fuck up. And it's just like, oh my God. And I'd just go, and not once did she ever say, I can't believe you put that on me. She was like, hey, just feel it. And there was so much patience and grace there. And I'm grateful for that. But, there's still things, moving forward that we've had to still recognize that stuff.
Yeah.
And the communication. But the thing is, the fact that you're willing to say the communication has been a work in progress shows that you're learning how to communicate, which at the end of the day is the most important part of a relationship. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you're growing in that together. And that's freaking awesome.
Well, and part of the communication, which like some people forget and then some people highlight a lot, is your comprehension of it. Mm. And when you're not in a place to be open to healing or working on your issues, somebody can communicate with you all day. Mm. But if your mind is not open to comprehend it the way that it is actually being presented to you, and your brain wants to manipulate it into your old past traumas or responses, it will never work. Yeah. And that's something I have to hold myself accountable for, because with everything that happened in my past, and consistently being in survival mode, now I am fight or flight.
You know what I mean?
It's like straight. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so it just kind of like went from one place to another because now I've set these boundaries for myself and I'm not going to be stupid and you know what I mean? Like all of this stuff. So now I'm like, fire away. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I get real amped up and I go from 0 to 100 really quick because it's like an internal protection. And so now I have to learn, you know, like for myself is I can turn the dial down a little bit. I don't have to back away from my boundaries.
Yeah.
But I don't have to be so extreme because this isn't a relationship where I'm not heard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's self-awareness.
Correct.
And that's the key right there.
Oh my God. And that sucks sometimes too. You're like, okay, yeah, that was me.
Yeah, but it's like really cool though, because like, you know, I was always in past relationships and it's like, I found that I was always the one saying sorry.
Yeah.
Because that's just what I had to do to fix it.
Even when you weren't wrong.
But like, I'm in a relationship now where like, yeah, I mean, sometimes I gotta be like, hey, listen, I apologize for acting that way or whatever.
Yeah.
But she's also like, listen, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, whoa, this is the first time a woman's actually said sorry to me. Like, you know, like,
Yeah.
no, but that's just been my experience. You know, it's always like, so I had to learn how to, because I always felt that everything was my fault.
Yes.
But that's also had become ingrained with who I am.
Yep.
You know, and then even Lydia, I'm like, she's like, stop telling me sorry. Like, you know, like she's had to tell me that. And I've grown a lot from that, but same as you, that intensity level. I'm like, she gets quiet. So I'm like, okay, she's done with me. She's quiet. She's not talking to me. That means she is done.
Yep.
And she's might pack her stuff up tomorrow.
Yep.
You know?
No, I go down the same path because she's quiet.
Yeah. And so, but I had to learn that, no, dude, I'm intense. She's not like that.
Yeah.
And honestly, if I'm being real with myself, handling it my way with intensity high,
Yeah.
you run the risk of saying some things that you don't want to say.
Yeah.
So I honestly appreciate that she's able to withdraw for a second, because now I need to withdraw and then I can feel that thing, because it's like when I get mad or the intensity, I can feel it.
Yeah.
I can feel this feeling that I don't like.
Yeah.
So now I get to like
Take a deep breath.
let that lower down.
Yeah.
And get down here.
Yeah.
You know, you're very similar in that aspect, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
Told you we're related somehow.
we are blood. We're chosen family.
We are.
But yeah, so I think I think that's really cool that you're willing to have that awareness. I mean, I think all these things taught you somehow played a part in that.
Oh yeah. And I think that comes, that's not even just in, my relationship with my significant other, but that's also friendships. To where people feel like they're not, and I don't know how people do it because I've never been that person, but like my relationships, I'm always deep feeling. You know what I mean? Like my friendships are relationships. They're just not intimate ones. You know what I mean? To that degree. Yeah. They're not significant other relationships, but they are relationships. And a lot of people forget that. And I think that's where, friendships either don't last or it's almost more so like a business transaction. You know what I mean? And I will never forget one of my closest friendships, some stuff went awry and they looked at me and they were like, I don't understand why you're so like upset or, whatever. Like sometimes friendships don't work out. And I said, and this is before my boundaries, but still I sat there and they said, it's not a relationship.
Yeah.
And I said, what do you mean it's not a relationship? I invest time, energy, care.
Yeah.
Like.
What am I doing that for?
What am I doing all of that for? If in like just a blink of an eye, it just gets dropped and, it's not treated as an investment.
I feel you.
Yeah. So
you take those relationships serious.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so like when I have you in my circle, like you have a part of me.
Yeah.
And you are, most of my people that I've, centered my friendships still now around that I've consistently like kept a connection with, I have now found are the ones that are investing back. Maybe not in the same exact ways, but as far as like the investment in total in and of itself, now it feels mutual.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Oh yeah.
Like my current season of life is like, no, it's time I pour in others that are going to pour back.
Exactly.
Reciprocate that. Pouring from an empty cup fucking sucks.
Yes.
And you have to go through those, you have to get to that place where you recognize that. Though.
Yes.
You're very much, we're very similar in a lot of these ways, actually. And so, yeah, and it's a harsh reality. And it's like Tez even said to me when, you know, because we spent like 3 hours doing business stuff, and he wants to know, just like he wanted to dive into a lot. And then, you know, we were walking around in Nashville, and he was like, Joe, he was like, not everybody connect with is your friend.
Yeah.
It's like, I know you're all about that deep connection shit. He's like, not everybody connected with is like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's hard for me to differentiate, because I'm like, oh my God, we connect on this. It's such a deep thing.
Yeah.
Like, we're so close now.
It's exciting.
You're a family. Come on. You know? And I'm like, I gotta be better. But I gotta be more aware of that, because like, it's not also like you that gets hurt in the process, or me. If that is the case, like your family is going to feel those actions too.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and if you're not able to like recognize the fact that people are taken from you, like now it affects them. Like in my business, if like I'm pouring in everything else, well, my family's also making that sacrifice. And that's a huge reality check.
Absolutely.
Like, no, they don't got to sacrifice shit. Like they do enough, you know?
Yep.
So it's just a lot of tough lessons, but beautiful lessons.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I have some great people in my circle now. And I'm very grateful, you know, the way that I've met them and stuff like that. Because like we were talking about earlier, like I've made 2 of my greatest friends, you know, they're a husband and wife, through another set of friends that I thought, you know, were going to be forevers, when they weren't. And that's fine. You know, that was a season. They were there for a season, and that's great. Yeah. But I got this other set of friends that are just absolutely fantastic. And they're there for me on anything and everything. And they reciprocate the same type of love I give. Yeah. And so it's like, if that friendship led me to here, that's okay. And that's where part of that learning of like, I can let that one go. As much as it sucks, I can let that one go. And I'm just going to appreciate this other one over here that I got from it. You know,
that's a powerful thing. It's when you're able to recognize and tell them thank you almost. It's like, you know, there's a couple people that were part of this team that are together. And, you know, when we parted ways, I was livid. Yeah. Lydia saw the reaction from me. Yeah. I lost my shit. And I was like, these motherfuckers. But, you know, fast forwarding to just like not long ago, maybe a month or two ago, month and a half, I actually texted these people in a little group chat, and I said, hey, listen, I just want to say this is for me. I don't expect any kind of reply. But I said, you know, thank you, because I want to say y'all were there with my business from like then till the time we parted ways. Yeah. And then y'all helped my business grow, and y'all helped everything grow from that time. And then from the time we parted ways to now, y'all have helped me grow as an individual. Yeah. Because they played a key part in that.
Yes. I remember that.
And I was just like, so thank y'all. Yeah. You know, that's all I wanted to say. And I left it at that. And they didn't respond, and I didn't expect them to. I'm not upset about that, but I genuinely feel that. Like,
but you feel better putting that out there, because I feel like that's always the right thing to do. Yeah. Is like, you know, when these people do something, we're not going to sit here and completely invalidate every good thing they brought to our life. Yeah. You know, and that's because of the people that we are and the whole of like looking the best out of people. But now we hold our boundaries. Yeah. And it's just respect. Yeah. Like, it's just honestly just respect at the end of the day. Like, I respect you for the part that you played. Yeah. I don't agree with some of the things you did. Yeah. You know, and that's why our relationship is what it is now. Yeah. But that doesn't take away from all of the good.
No. And at the end of the day, the growth has come from like the time that part ways along with some others. Yeah. And like me leaning into like letting go of resentment and forgiving and all that stuff. Like, that's been some of the most important growth of my life. Like, that's why I feel like so confident moving forward, is like, you know, I needed that. Yeah. So y'all are actually a very important piece of the puzzle. Yes. And so thank y'all. That's all, like, the only way I can look at it.
I didn't know what to do with it. They were like, just put it away like it didn't happen.
Yeah. Who's this piece of shit? You know, no, I don't know what they say. I don't
believe a word you say.
I think it, you know, but that's comes from my heart truly. And it's a good feeling.
Well, that's good. That's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a big moment.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You know, it popped up to me one day. I was like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah. I'm just going to do this today.
Yeah, I know.
I'm a changed man.
Yeah. But it goes back to what you're saying though, is like, you know, I think recognizing she's an extra snorer today. Maybe she's got an allergy. I don't know. But recognizing the value in those relationships, no matter what.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's like, look at the places that you were in life when you first created these relationships too, because like you were a lot of these, relationships that have come and gone, you were a different person yourself. Like, and you grew, they grew.
Yeah.
Like, and that's just kind of what happens, is it just kind of changes. And then I think really like it's, like my friend group at one point was like this big, you know what I mean? And I loved it.
Yeah.
I wasn't upset about it. But when I tell you I was exhausted,
Yeah.
because, like I'm trying to keep up with all of them and like whatever and stuff like that. And I still have a plethora. Like, I'm not going to say like it's too small, like I've got quite a few that I can still depend on, trust, check in, love, and appreciate. But like, the people that I had when I was in college, like they're not the same people that they are now. And either our paths still align or they don't. And that's okay. It's not as fearful now. Yeah. Like I'm losing someone, you know what I mean? Because I've dealt with a lot of abandonment. And so the fear of abandonment, can kick in, and that trigger and stuff like that from all the failed relationships and, like stuff like that. But I think now seeing kind of like, I went from, and this is kind of like add to my story, I guess, a little bit, and I'm gonna sum it up real fast. Like I was always involved in something. Like I always was go, 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 go. So like in college, I was part of the equestrian team. I competed in college at MTSU for that. And then I got into bodybuilding after I was fat.
See, we didn't even touch on all this.
We didn't even touch all that.
Oh my
stuff. So
God.
like, I'm going to literally run it
We
together.
got into like the heavy life stuff.
So
and
fast.
And it's crazy how it's flown by.
Yeah, literally. So like I was involved in that, then went from that to bodybuilding because I had like that 2-year stint where I was stagnant. That's what I said. I became that big girl. So I went from that to bodybuilding, and then went from bodybuilding to then I played women's professional football. And so like all of the friendships that I may have created through these active, busy, consistently involved, what happens when that thing that tied us together no longer remains?
Pull apart. Yeah.
How connected? That's why Whitney and Whitney is a lifelong sister forever.
Yeah.
I don't have to play football to have a connection with her. Football's just the thing that brought us together. Oof. So it's kind of, you find out doing the things that you do and the activities and the things that you get yourself involved in is who's still there when that thing goes away. And so that's where I find out where my true like friends are.
We're gonna have to do a part 2 now because we gotta dive into all the shit. No, because
I was trying to make it summarized.
No. Well, I mean, I would love to record with you. I got like thousands of more episodes to record, guys. So y'all be ready. Yeah, but yeah, no, I think that's really cool. Like you're able to find like, you had that season or that chapter of like what that thing was. Yeah. But in the midst of that, you found something, you found that golden nugget like Whitney is. Yeah.
And even though Whitney lives in like Alabama, like Whitney consistently, tries to keep up with me, and, I do the same with her. And so, and I've got a friend that lives in Kentucky, Kylie. Yeah. And that she's like my big sister, and I still have that same love and relationship with her because it's reciprocated. And so that's back to that whole, like, we now know our boundary, and we are such big, like you are an amazingly big-hearted individual, and I have seen it for years. Yeah. But like I can understand you because we give grace a little too much sometimes, and then we get used and abused in the process. And then that just kind of sets off a trigger internally, and we go to the extremes yet again. Yeah. And we're like, screw them. Like, I'm done.
Choke their head off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's been, definitely both of us have been on that journey, and I'm very appreciative of it because it's just through all those friendships and, it's like the friendship breakups. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I've learned a lot about myself and like what I expect from friendships. Yep. And also like where I either let things get to me or I don't. And I just be like, that's what it is. And I can either choose to keep going with it or I can set that boundary and be done. Yep.
And sometimes the best thing to do is just burn a bridge. Yep. And that way you don't go back to it. And that's okay too.
Absolutely.
Just turn those pages, and it's like, all right, that's part of it, but no longer my future.
No longer.
Yeah. I love it. And damn it, something else too.
Oh no.
I'll get to that. Obviously we just got a few minutes left. Damn it, I want to dive into like the foot. I mean, you go pretty in depth with your story, and I'm glad for it. Yeah. Obviously there's so many layers and things to understand about like why the bodybuilding and and the result of that, and even the football. Yeah. And I'm like, shit, man, but that would we go on forever about all this stuff. Oh yeah. But I am actually very happy with what we discussed today. Yeah. Because I think it's deep, it's relatable. It's things that a lot of people have faced or are currently facing in their lives, you know, whether it's something that you've been through. Obviously, unfortunately, different kinds of abuses are pretty common.
Yeah.
And so I think this is a lot about you to get on a platform and share that with the world.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people feel alone. They want to bottle those things in. So for someone to encourage them to speak about it and just talk about it, or just to hear someone else, they're like, damn, that's powerful shit.
Oh,
so props to you for doing so.
Thanks.
You know, I'm really proud of you. And I'm proud of how far you come.
Thanks.
And it's been a good experience getting to learn Austina on a deeper level.
Yes.
You know, these are things that I haven't fully understood or known about you.
Yeah.
And like, it brought us closer too.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like super grateful.
We already thought we were like family, and now it's just getting even deeper.
It's amazing, ain't it?
Oh, yeah.
Is there something in my nose?
No, I don't see
Okay.
any, I don't see any bats in the
Okay,
back
it's probably a
cave.
hair.
Okay.
It's like a hair that's bothering me. And I'm like, dude, I
Do
better
you keep
not have
like
like
doing this?
it's, you know, you don't want like one of those bugs that are just like kind of doing that when you talk.
When you breathe?
Yeah,
it's
it's like it's like a vent. And
I
I'm
promise I tell you.
Like, yeah, I'm like, oh my god.
At least I don't see it from this angle.
Okay. As long as the camera's, we're good. My nose is. Anyways, guys.
Just awkwardly, I'm gonna talk like this.
I figured I'd ask you. Anyways,
Feel better.
is there anything else you want to touch on specifically, you know, before we close out and ask my final question?
Don't believe so.
Don't believe so?
No. I kind of threw a curveball at you already with like the things I just crammed at the very end there.
Yeah, man.
I did.
I mean, I knew a lot of that stuff about you too, though. You
Yeah.
know, bodybuilding and like, I mean, obviously there's more layers to the reasoning and all that
Yeah.
stuff, right? But, you know, I think it's really cool because I got to learn a lot about some deeper layers of you from the past that I haven't seen from a time I didn't really know Austina for most of it. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you for having me.
Meant the world to have you. Now, Austina.
Yes.
What is your relentless pursuit?
I would say my relentless pursuit is to continue to be stronger in who I am and not ever let my voice get taken away again. And just to just continue to help and encourage others to find their own, even in the muck and the things that are going on. And you don't have to fit into a specific mold to be valued.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing. And that's why, like I said earlier, I just brought up the fact that I am ever changing and I am okay with it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's fun. It keeps me on my toes. I keep my family on my toes. I do feel a little sorry for my family because they're like, what is she getting into now? Uh-oh. But like, I love living life to the fullest capacity. And I think everybody should learn to experience.
Yeah.
You know?
100%. Yep. Because that's what it's all about.
Oh, yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. Well, I'm proud of you, and I think that's a great answer. And I'm excited to see what lies ahead for you. I think, you know, I think there's a lot ahead for you. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
You know, I've had to embrace the unknown, but I think, you know, you're, for lack of better words, you're just now tapping into your potential.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's great. So I'm excited to see what lies ahead, Austina.
Oh, and you're going to see it every step of the way.
Yeah, hell yeah. Well, hey, I'm here for it. So are the rest of us. So is my little family. And we love you, girl.
Well, I love you guys too. And I appreciate y'all so much.
Of course. I appreciate you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Take care, guys.
We did it.